The Pledge. I'll admit it, I have issues with the Pledge of Allegiance. After 13 years of K through 12 education, putting my hand over my heart and reciting, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, I barely heard the words I was saying. It was a school ritual, one drained of meaning like many religious rituals can become when repeated without thought and contemplation. Have you ever repeated a word over and over, faster and faster, until the word starts to dissolve into rhythmic gibberish? Rutabaga. Rutabaga. Try it at the next party. Any word you choose will fall apart along with its meaning and place in the language. The Pledge of Allegiance became meaningless like an overly repeated rutabaga when I graduated and shipped my carcass off to college. After 4 years of top-notch indoctrination, I was certified to teach young skulls full of mush. And wouldn't you know it, the Pledge of Allegiance was piped through the loudspeaker every morning in public schools, too. Morning announcements and the pledge, and then we were allowed to get to some fine edumacation. Many people are offended by the G-O-D part. It's been a full-court press to get any mention of the Creator scoured from our schools for decades, and it must really bug them to have the big G front and center in a mandated daily ritual. I love the idea of them having to mumble/choke on those words every day. It must chap their hides. I know I shouldn't get such a kick out of it, but Christians have to wade through so much of their ideological garbage every day that it just seems like the least they can do. During my teaching years, my principal had such a problem with that line that he spent 10 minutes over the loudspeaker trying to get the whole school to say, "One nation, under God," without pausing. All my students were mystified as to why it was so important to him. After all, we all paused on the first line when there wasn't a comma. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Was there something about the God line that he found objectionable? I think he did more damage to his atheistic agenda by drawing attention to the line than could ever be done by letting the kids chant mindlessly. If I still remember his antics, how many kids do? We also found that after putting in thousands of repetitions of the Pledge of Allegiance with a pause before "under God," it was impossible to say it any other way. By the end of the week, my principal had given up and never mentioned it again. My problem with the pledge has nothing to do with its under-godness. Our republic was built on Judeo-Christian principles, and no amount of revisionist history can change that. In fact, the line "under God" was added to differentiate our national roots from the communists in the Soviet Union who, by 1954, had built an empire on atheism. No, my beef with the pledge is more fundamental. Something about a pledge of allegiance to our government rubs me wrong. A pledge is a promise. Allegiance is a commitment of loyalty, which harkens back to the obligations of a vassal to the Lord in the feudal system. Why should the citizens of the United States verbalize their subordination to the state? Why do we make our kids do this endlessly? It's contrary to American ideals. The government has no authority that has not been given to it by its people. And those people retain authority over it at all times through the constitutional system. Why are citizens pledging allegiance to the government at all? It seems backward to me. Since the government has a subordinate position in our republic, all government employees are the vassals of the people, not the other way around. Perhaps instead of our children pledging allegiance to the government, all government officials should have to put their hands on their hearts and swear a fealty oath each morning. Let every ruler be reminded of their underposition in the government/citizen relationship. When the president is sworn into office, he puts his hand on the Bible and says, "I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God." How about every government employee is required to start their day with a similar oath? "I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of police officer or senator or bureaucrat of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God." Let them verbalize every day that they are the subordinate. Let them be reminded each morning that they are responsible for preserving, protecting, and defending the Constitution. 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. It's going to get pretty mundane, but that's okay. We've been dealing with it in the education system for years. They'll survive it. Their future employment with the government should be based on a performance rubric of these 3 things before anything else is considered. Preserve the Constitution, protect the Constitution, defend the Constitution. Did they do it? Yes. Okay, now are they good at their jobs? Should students still be required to say the existing Pledge of Allegiance in schools? No, I think they should not. I think we should institute a different pledge. How about something like this? "I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of citizen of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God." And then we should teach them what the Constitution says, specifically and often. The job of the United States citizen is an important one, more important than most of us realize. We are responsible for steering the ship of state. We are responsible for preserving, protecting, and defending the Constitution. Before any of our employees, government workers, take the oath, we should. If we keep neglecting our responsibility to collectively rule this nation, it will continue to devolve into a common tyranny of some form or variety. Socialist, communist, fascist, oligarchy, feudalist. It doesn't matter what label is stamped on the package. It won't be the United States of America because it won't be free. Just in case you forgot what the Constitution actually says the government can't do to us, here is the list. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, right to petition the government for redress of grievances, the right to keep and bear arms, freedom from quartering soldiers in private homes without consent in peacetime, protection against unreasonable searches and seizures, requirement for warrants based on probable cause, protection against double jeopardy, being tried twice for the same offense, protection against self-incrimination, right to due process of law, protection against government taking private property without just compensation, eminent domain, right to a speedy and public trial, right to an impartial jury, right to be informed of criminal charges, right to confront witnesses against oneself, right to compel witnesses to testify on one's behalf, right to legal counsel, right to a jury trial in civil cases exceeding a certain monetary value, protection against excessive bail and fines, protection against cruel and unusual punishment. Rights not specifically enumerated in the Constitution are retained by the people. Powers not delegated to the federal government nor prohibited to the states are reserved to the states or the people. Prohibition of slavery and involuntary servitude except as a punishment for a crime. Right to equal protection under the law, right to due process at the state level, citizenship rights, prohibition of voting discrimination based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude, right to vote regardless of sex, prohibition of poll taxes in federal elections, right to vote for citizens age 18 and older, right to privacy, right to marry, right to travel freely within the United States. Maybe we should have government workers recite this full list along with the oath. It may feel like a waste of time, but when has government made efficient use of anything? After all, how many of their daily schedules would be cleared completely if they followed this list to the letter of the law? Maybe we should start holding them to a stricter standard.